Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the MylesHighClub podcast. I am your host, Myles, and welcome to episode number 10. We made it. Well, I made it, and a few of you have followed me across all 10 episodes. So yeah, I'm here. Episode number 10. I feel like this is a milestone. Not a very big one, don't get me wrong, but this will be 10 hours of me talking to myself with a handful of people watching, but I appreciate every single view, no matter how long that view is. So here we are, episode number 10. Consistency is key. And so far we have been at 10 weeks consistent. So I'm very proud of myself for that. Shout out to everyone who has messaged me asking how long am I planning on going for, or what's the hardest thing. Honestly, this is going to sound, if you know me, this will sound weird, but the hardest thing for me when it comes to doing this podcast is working out what the fuck I'm going to talk about. I listen all the time. I have a week from when I record. So I record on a Tuesday. The podcast drops on a Thursday. So from Tuesday to Tuesday, I have that whole week to try and get as much content and ideas to talk about as possible. And I think of some topics sometimes I'm just like, I don't think anyone cares about this but me. And then other times I'll try and like research topics and I'm like, don't really care about any of this to sit down and actually talk about it on the podcast and act like I'm talking about it. So yeah, it's one of them things. First of all, I hardly use social media, which sounds crazy considering I've just started a podcast. But I would say within a month of me just before the month leading up to me starting this podcast, before I even had the idea to start the podcast, I deleted my Snapchat. I just wasn't using Snapchat. I sort of drifted from Snapchat over to Instagram. Instagram, well, for stories, because Snapchat was just you post a snap, but Instagram has Instagram stories. So I was just like, I can't bother to keep flicking between these two apps, especially when I used to just sit on Instagram and just flick through the feeds for hours. So it just made sense. And I wasn't talking to anyone on my Snapchat, so I got rid of my Snapchat. I was so tempted to get rid of Facebook, but just because of the few connections that I have with like family members and certain friends, and that's how we keep in touch and stay up to date. I haven't got rid of Facebook, but I'm not very active on Facebook at all. Twitter, I never ever got to understand Twitter. I don't know if I was late to the Twitter hype downloads, and I've had Twitter for years, like years and years and years. But I was just never really fully involved in Twitter. And then as Twitter started to blow up, I don't know where I was. I think I was over on Instagram or Snapchat, Facebook. I think I was I was on Facebook. I was too busy on Facebook with the old people when I should have been with my generation hanging out on Twitter, but it just never happened. So because I'm not on social media as much, I don't look at social media topics like it's, you know how hard it is for me these days to know what's trending, especially in this day and age where a trending topic is what? 3 days if it's really big, 2 days, normally it's just a day, like you'll see a bunch of memes for one day, or maybe you'll get some drag on the second day because Instagram's no longer in chronological order, which I think they should go back to, but whatever. I'm sure their algorithms tell them what's best for them. Yes, I'm never on Instagram or Twitter long enough to see what the trending topics are. Whether it's like, especially Twitter. Twitter has so many. And the only reason I ever find out what was a trending topic on Twitter is when I listen to other podcasts. I listen to other podcasts and then I hear them say, oh, did you see this going around on Twitter? Or did you see this going around on Twitter? And I'm just like, I'm not on Twitter to see what's going around. And then what I've done for a few of these shows is if I feel like I'm struggling for topics, I've gone onto Twitter, swiped over to the trending tab and just have a look at what's trending. And I don't know if they're lying or they're going off whatever algorithms they try and source for me for someone that doesn't use Twitter, but the trending topics are never interesting. Not to me. For the past 2 years, if COVID or something to do with COVID hasn't been in the top 5, then it was Brexit that was in the top 5. And now all of a sudden Brexit's making a comeback in the headlines, and I'm just like, no, I'm not dealing with Brexit and COVID. The government, that's your job, not ours. But yeah, that's the same with the news. I don't watch the news. It's either Denzel Washington said this or it was a quote from somewhere. But it's like if you don't watch the news, then you're not getting any information. But if you do watch the news, you can never tell what's false information and what's real information. And then when you're am I a conspiracy? I think I'm a conspiracy theorist. When you're woke, I'd never class myself as woke. I think it's not a stupid term, but the way it gets used now, it's one of those things where it's been rinsed so much, you're just like, yeah. But yeah. So when I see certain, well, it depends what I see on the news. Would you ever have you ever watched the news, or you've been walking through, I don't know, walking through the house and you just hear something on the news and you just think to yourself, how did this make the news? And then when you think to yourself, how did this make the news? You then have to start wondering, how many people did this story pass through, getting a thumbs up to be like, yes, yeah, you can make the news. You're a headline. So I just no, the news ain't for me. And then when you see things like, right, don't quote me on this. I think BBC are neutral, and the only reason I'd say that is because, like, when I used to listen to One Extra when I listened to the radio a lot, one thing that they always do is they'll say stuff like, I had some Skittles today, other sweets are available. Or I went Tesco's today, other supermarkets are available. They seem like they can't shout out anyone, so they seem very unbiased. But I don't follow the media in England. And the only reason I know so much about American media is because most things I consume are American. Don't judge me. I bet you're the exact same way as well. So when you watch American news, you've got things like, I know they lean slightly more towards the right, like they were like the Trump supporters of news networks, and then they shit on everything that the Democrats do. And then is it NBC, or there's some other ones that are on the Democrat side, and they shit on the right side. So again, it's when you see these stories, you're just like, who can I even believe? And then you got things start this year when COVID was happening. It was like the news was doing everything they could to cover COVID, and then every now and again, depending on where you lived in the world, they would just drop a random news story to try and get everyone's attention. It lasted for like a day, and then that was it. So do you remember America were dealing with the murder hornets? And the UK, does anyone remember the story coming out about them apparently finding Madeleine McCann's killer in Germany, or he's German? Something to do with that. Where did that come from? We know who Madeleine McCann's parents' killers are. I'm not going to say it. No, we know who Madeleine McCann's killers are. I'm not going to say it just in case for some weird reason they end up watching this and then try and sue me for defamation. But we know. Like, and if you don't know, just go and do the research. Oh, not the mic. Yeah, but if you don't know, do the research. It's not going to take you a long time to figure out who the fuck killed Maddie. So, but yeah, they brought out some bullshit news story that probably was in the papers or the news for like a week or so. And then again, that just disappeared and got brushed under the carpet like nothing. So yeah, for me, the hardest thing for me to try and find to talk about is what to talk about. And yeah, I knew that was going to happen. And I'm not going to pause, I might pause this and get up and flick back on there. But literally, when I walked into the garage, that's what had happened. This is why, last week when I was talking about I need to get my garage converted, I need to, because it gets damp in here because of all the leaks and stuff, and it's not properly insulated. That just falls off. I put it's not masking tape or anything. I just put fresh sellotape on there, thinking sellotape's going to hold it for an hour or so, surely. So let's fix this real quick. Right, I'm back. That's back up. However, I can hear it peeling. Like, I don't know if it's being picked up. I don't know if it's being picked up on the mic, but I can hear it peeling away ever so slowly. So if it falls down again, then it falls down again. I'm just going to leave it. I'm not going to take it down, only because things have fell down that many times. All of these posters are all held together pretty much by sellotape, as well as being pinned to the wall with sellotape. So if I pull one down, the whole thing is coming down. But have no fear. Anyone that watched my unboxing video or heard the previous podcast, I do have a green screen now. This week is my last week at work for 2020, which means the weekend I can actually get the green screen out, iron it, come into the garage, have a mess around, work out where it's best to go, and then I won't need to worry about things falling off in the background. So, back to the conversation I was talking about earlier when I was on about myself. So not really on social media, so I don't really get the trending topics, so I can't really come on here and start talking about the trending topics or ask those hot questions that were being asked on social media. I'm just like, sorry. The news is full of shit. One of them. It's either full of shit or the stories I don't care about. You know what the best news is? It's messy. And I'm not a messy person, but like if I see mess, I'm not going to get involved, but I'm not going to like not watch or listen. Things like I'm one of those kind of people. So yeah, when it comes to like news, and it's just not me. But the best kind of news. You ever been into like the corner shop or like your local shop, and you walk past the magazines, and obviously you've got your dirty mags right at the top so kids can't see, and then right at the bottom you've got all the kids mags, so it's easy for them just to grab and say, "Can I have this, please?" But in that middle section, you have some of them like OK magazines and some of them like tabloidy, trashy magazines. Read some of those stories. I haven't got any examples now, so I'll try and get examples for next week. But you will see the maddest stuff. Like imagine, you know, like when you watch Jeremy Kyle. If you ever flicked on Jeremy Kyle, then at the bottom it's like, my brother slept with my auntie's husband and then they ran off with each other. Just weird shit like that. You always see something like that. You will always see them kind of stories. That's the kind of news I'm interested in. Real life, real people, real stories, as crazy as it is. And I'm also not a chatty patty. I don't think I'm a chatty patty anyway. So when it comes to gossip, I'm just like, I don't really gossip. I try and stay out of gossip. There are a few people that can watch this, and I'm not gonna talk about too many details. I don't want to rehash old things, depending on who actually watches this podcast. But there's been times when people have been sat in my car with me and they've been telling me information, and I've been like, on one hand, I'm listening, but on the second hand, I'm like, I don't really like. I don't want to know. I don't want all this information. But on the other hand, I'm like, swear down, that really happened. I wonder what happens if they find out. But yeah, it's one of them things. There we go. So when it comes to topics, I have got topics this week provided by the good old fuckery that is quarantine, coronavirus, lockdown. I don't even know what people are referring to it as. Lockdown 2.0, lockdown and the Chamber of Secrets. Nice little wink there for everyone that understands that little reference, not just a Harry Potter, but the specific one. So yeah, lockdown 2.0 in the UK, or should I say in England and Scotland, no, because Wales finished before, but in England, lockdown 2.0 has finished. Hooray! But we all gone straight back into our tiers. Boo. If you live by me, I'm not going to put my area right there, but if you live by me, we're in tier 3. Not too sure what that means. Like, I think it's because I don't go out anywhere. I haven't looked to see what I'm affected by. I know the gyms are back open. I know shops are back open. Hospitality, I think, is food. I think you can go for, no, you can get takeout. You can't eat out. And listen, there's so many numbers. I just keep my house to my house, and that is it. But you don't need to be careful, because I've got to feel like, well, would they? I don't know. But if luckily we're in England, so I can't imagine they would. But in other countries, I can see this happening. But a lot of people think they're smart, that live in tier 3 areas and then are traveling over to tier 2 areas, thinking to themselves, oh, we can have some tier 2 fun and just return home to tier 3. They're going to clock onto that eventually. And it wouldn't surprise me if the government issues some sort of stupid statement where like pubs and restaurants have to start IDing people. And if their ID doesn't say that they're from that area, then you have to deny them access. Or in an extreme world, they'll start putting like, we don't have borders or state lines like they do in America. So just having police up and down the motorways, sitting at certain junctions, pulling people over. Where are you lot from? There's a car full of people from Birmingham on the M25 heading to London, and they're like, "What are you guys doing here? You don't go uni, so you get sent back." This is, you might think I'm being crazy or being funny, but I'm being deadly serious. It wouldn't surprise me if the government sees all this. But I think the most common thing they're going to do is the fact that they have said, even if you're living in a tier 3, between the dates of the 23rd and the 27th, you can go see family, or up to 3 households can mix just for Christmas. Lets me know that, one, I don't think we're getting a new year. Well, we'll get a new year, but I don't feel like people are going to be able to celebrate it like they really want to celebrate it. And think about this. So the virus came, infection rates in the UK rose, and then testing became available, so it rose even more. And then after 6 months, we were like, we can't keep people locked in too long. I think they lied as the numbers are coming down. The numbers weren't coming down. So they let everyone back out on the, were we tiered then? Yeah, they let everyone back out first, and they just let everyone back out to a degree. Certain things were opening, and then infection rates went up even more. So then they put us in these tiers. to try and slow the infection down, but then it went up even more. So then they put us back into lockdown, which somehow, especially in certain areas, made the increase the rate again even more. So now they're like, oh yeah, okay, we'll put them back in, we'll drop the lockdown, put them back into tiers, and let everyone mingle for Christmas. So first of all, let me just say, I'm not against it. Like the fact that families can link up for Christmas, I wasn't going to tell people to break the rules, but I was going to say, yo, it's Christmas, go see your family. It's not, again, like I said, I'm not the overriding authority on these things. But that's what I was going to say. That would be my advice, people, just go and see your family. Anyone snitches, your family just has to ride out on that family. Again, I do not promote or condone violence. But yeah, so it's just one of them where this is going to be up and down, up and down. I think for the most of next year as well. I feel like we're going to be in and out of lockdowns and in tiers up until the summer, which is when I reckon they'll have. I don't think there's any rush to get a vaccine out now. They act like there is, but I think it's the summer when they know people aren't going to want to stay inside. That's when we will start seeing the vaccine, which is what brings me on to the main topic of today, this so-called vaccine. Now, again, I told you I'm going to try and stay away from being as political as possible, so I'm not going to talk of the whole, are you going to get the vaccine? When are you going to get the vaccine? And all this. Listen, if you want to get the vaccine, get the vaccine. If you don't want to get the vaccine, don't get the vaccine. The only thing I would say is do your research. Stop following people on Facebook and Twitter and hearing what your friend Dave at work said and taking what they said for Bible. Go and do your own research. The best way to protect yourself. However, I was thinking about the vaccine. I was thinking, like, the original thing was, what do you reckon is going to happen in 2021? And I was like, obviously, I think the next big thing in 2021 will be the vaccine. And then I started thinking about this vaccine. I was like, why don't people want the vaccine? Why don't they trust the vaccine? And the simple answer is, though, they think it's going to kill them or it's going to make them worse. So then I was like, well, if you think about it, what are the best and worst case scenarios for the vaccine? So, when you say, well, do you want first the good news or the bad news? Everyone wants the good news. No, everyone wants the bad news first. So we start with the bad news, which is what would be the worst case scenario of the vaccine. Now, I have done no research, so anything I say from now on may or may not be able to happen with a vaccine. The first thing is death. Like, you take the vaccine and you die. There's nothing you can do about that. I think a lot of people are under the conspiracy that the New World Order want population control. They want to drop the numbers to save the planet, which again, the whole Thanos way of thinking, kind of a shit way to do it. But is there any other way of cleansing this planet from the infection that is human beings to give our planet Earth a chance that our kids have a beautiful future? Who knows? But I've already spoke about these creatures once. Another one is zombies. What about if the vaccine turns people into zombies? Have you thought about that? I haven't thought about the logistics of it. Like, maybe it's everyone who's A positive blood type, or maybe all the vaccine, like all black people turn to zombies, or all females turn to zombies, or anyone under the age or over a certain age that has a vaccine turns into zombies. And I was like, that is a bad case scenario, but they do test these things. So because they test these things, I was like, well, zombies can't happen unless, like Resident Evil, similar sort of style. They obviously have all of these places. They're testing the vaccines on a rat. It infects the rat. The rat gets out, bites the worker. You know how zombie stories start. Bites the worker, spreads from there, and then we have a zombie apocalypse on our hands. Hopefully, Resident Evil zombies, slow zombies that walk. They don't mutate or adapt to anything in life. They can't run. They don't pile up on each other like World War Z zombies. Because, if you haven't seen World War Z, oh man, those zombies. Any scenario you can think of with World War Z, you would not come out on top unless you have a plane and can just stay in the air for as long as possible. And even then, they probably build some sort of zombie Eiffel Tower to get it. But yeah, first one I was thinking is, could the vaccine create zombies or turn a bunch of people into zombies? Force you to come against your friends and family members that actually got the vaccine when you didn't. And I was like, oh, that is a tricky one. Another one I thought of is mind control. What about if the vaccine is mind control? So anyone who takes the vaccine ends up getting something put into their system that allows a higher power to control them. And then I don't know what they would do with that from there. You've got a free workforce. Like, everyone with a vaccine, you just send out some sort of signal, and it just makes them all pack their bags. Don't say a word to family or friends. They just pack their bags and they just head to a port or an airport, and they all go to the same place. And you now have a mind control slave labor ship going on in some hidden island or country, or I don't know. I was thinking about, as you can tell, guys, I was thinking about all the different scenarios that could happen. Another one, not my mic again. Another one I thought about is, what about if it's aliens? What about, hear me out now, what about if the virus is some sort of alien infection that aliens have like dropped on our planet to either A, wipe us out, B, turn us into their mind control slaves, or what about if it's like, how, hold on, like how a bee or wasp will like attack a spider, and then like when they kill the spider, they'll plant all their eggs in the spider, and then the eggs will feed off that spider and then like burst out of the spider, and the spider dies as the host, and then those bees live on. What about if they're doing that to us? What about if this is how aliens are going to colonize our planet? They flew over, they've dropped spores, which is the coronavirus that everyone thinks is from China, but maybe that's what they did. Maybe they flew over China, and that's where they released their spores, knowing that China is probably the most densely populated country in the world. If it's not China, it's India. It's one of those two countries, I think. But again, it's one of the most densely populated places in the world. You hit there, a lot of traffic goes to and from China, whether it's people going over there or products coming to and fro, and it just spreads around the world. And then when they're ready, when the aliens up there have got like a certain percentage, or they know when the infection rate's at the highest, they just flick some switch and a signal comes down, and then we just start hatching shit on the inside of us. That was a bit of a dark one. I apologize if anyone was eating watching this as well. What else? I don't know why I'm coming over to my onto my tablet, because I don't think I've got any more ideas written down on my tablet. But there you go. You've got ultimate death, mind control slaves, zombies, or it's an alien attack / colonize of Earth. None of which I think I have the ability to stop, defend myself against, or like I said, depending on what kind of zombies they are. There you go. But then I did think to myself, well, if you have the worst case scenarios, what are the best case scenarios? And there is, well, the best case scenario is that it's a vaccine that works. Yeah, it's just a vaccine that works with no side effects. However, an even better case, well, I say better case scenario, it all depends, but in my opinion, a better case scenario would be you take the vaccine. This is the only, like one about to say now, is the only thing that has got me contemplating taking this vaccine and like being like the first person to take it. What about, hear me out now, if when you get the vaccine, you get superpowers or a superpower? It could be one, it could be multiple. Just think about that. Before, don't laugh, don't judge me. Just think about it. Again, I haven't been hired by like some government health organization to convince everyone to take the vaccine. I'm just spitballing ideas here. But the best case scenario of taking the vaccine is you turn into a superhero. Oh, I shouldn't say superhero. You turn into a super. Whether you want to be a villain or a hero is completely in your hands. But yeah, I was thinking, what about if you get superpowers? So you take the vaccine, you feel fine, you get home, you get all a bit woozy, you pass out, you wake up, and it's like a whole Spider-Man thing. You don't know what your powers are. Something happens, like, I don't know, you sneeze and immediately engulf yourself in flames. Or you go to slam your door and you end up tearing down the whole wall in your house. You're like, oh shit, I've got super strength. Or like you fall down the stairs and you start hovering. Like there are so many superpowers out there that if I try and give you an example of how each and every one of them would work. But just think about that. Because I don't know about you guys, but imagine if a bunch of people, especially like a friend or family member, went and got the vaccine, and they were like part of the very first batch, the test dummies or the lab rats, so to speak, and they developed superpowers, and you're like, fuck, they asked me to go with them. I should have got the fucking vaccine. Too busy listening to Billy on Twitter talking about how it's going to turn me into a pig. Meanwhile, all your family and friends are now running around with superpowers. Yes, on the one hand, if it did turn into superpowers, you now have to deal with the government. But two, you have superpowers. Like, it's not something the government, well, they might have. What about if they did that? What about, here we go, if whoever's behind the vaccine is like, we should reward these people with a super serum. So like maybe all these people are like Superman mixed with Deadpool, so they have all the best powers in the world and they can't die. And then they're just they're handing out vaccine, and whoever agrees to take the vaccine is obviously signing up to join this whatever super cult. Super cult. I'll think of a better name later on in life. But yeah, and then everyone who doesn't has to fend for themselves and deal with not being a super, or probably get wiped out by the soups. So then the soups have planet Earth to themselves. Oh, there was so much going through my head, and I was like, I would love. There was literally so much going through my head. I was like, I would love to get superpowers, but at the same time, I don't know if risking going for a vaccine would be the way of getting said superpowers. I am back with my hot chocolate. Oh, still lovely and hot. Galaxy hot chocolate for everyone sat at home wondering. I did put a poll out on my Instagram earlier today asking, because that Galaxy hot chocolate, that was the last of my Galaxy hot chocolate. So I put a poll out on Instagram earlier asking what are the best options for hot chocolate. Funny enough, options came up. Option mint. Like, I've never thought about a mint hot chocolate drink. Whenever I think about drinking hot chocolate, I just want it to be as chocolatey as possible. Options came up a few times. Cadbury's came up, normal, and their highlights. I quickly flew B&M because I was running out and I needed to get some hot chocolate. So I literally went B&M just to get hot chocolate, and they only had options. So I've got options Belgian choc. Next week I'll let you know what that tastes like. But back to what I was saying, vaccine gives you superpowers. So now, guys, just imagine this now. We're in a world where you've had the vaccine, whether it was willingly or not willingly. You had a vaccine and it's reacted with, I don't know, your blood cells. It's reacted with the cells in your body, and all of a sudden you have superpowers. The one question, like, because I think the easiest question to ask someone is, if you had superpowers, what superpowers would you have? And it's easy for me. Telekinesis. It's basically it's like Jean Grey. I can just control everything with my mind. And with that being said, there is no other. There's no other one you could need. Like flight, I have telekinesis. I can make myself fly. Super strength. I have telekinesis. Again, I don't know how strength would work with my telekinesis. But I'd work on it. So I got telekinesis. You could be super strong and you could just run at me, and I'd just be like, telekinesis, just pull all your atoms apart. I don't know what you're gonna do, just floating in the air, atoms. But that's not the question. But now you know my answer. The question would be to you all: if you had superpowers, would you use them for good or for bad? Now, good or bad, that is subject. That is very subjective. Like, what is good and what is bad? Like, if I steal from a bank, is that good or bad? Like, it's bad because you're stealing from a bank. But what about if I then use that money and give it to like charities, or like a Robin Hood, steal from the rich, give to the poor? What about now? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it good intentions? Is it a bad act covered by good intentions? Who knows? So I also have another caveat for that, because I feel like a lot of people's answers would change if you took the vaccine and it was only you, or to your knowledge, it was only you that had superpowers in the whole wide world. Would you use them for good or bad? Personally, I would use them for good. And then if it was one of those ones where everyone, well, not everyone, but like, let's say, I don't know, let's say half the population of the globe take the vaccine. Of that 50%, let's say 25% of them get superpowers, and you're one of them, and you know that there's people all over the world with superpowers. Would that affect your answer? Would you use it for good or bad? Hear me out. Well, to start with, both scenarios, whether it's just me or I think it's just me, or if it's a bunch of people, I'm keeping my superhero powers to myself for as long as possible. I'm keeping those powers to myself for as long as possible. I'm going to practice practice in the garden, but then someone looks out their bedroom window and just sees me lifting the garage. But I'd practice in the house as sneakily as possibly could, like drive out to like a forest and start taking out trees with my newfound abilities. But if I was by myself, if it was just me, I would definitely do it for good. Like, again, some people are going to be like, oh my God, but I never know how I'm meant to do it. Anytime this situation comes into my head, where I always get superpowers, I always imagine like Superman level powers. So then I'm like, I would use my superpowers to get rid of all the racists, or the pedophiles, or the rapists. I would use my to get rid of all of those people and to take down the New World Order. And then I'm like, I don't even know where I would start. I don't even know where I would start. So then you'd have to be like, would I stick to my local area? Like, would I be like every superhero that sticks to their city? Would I just be looking after like Birmingham, Stourbridge, the West Midlands? Like, what would I actually be looking after? Would I attempt to look after the whole country? Again, all depends on travel. Superman, he can afford to look after the whole world, even though he just stays in Metropolis with his super fast speed. But listen, this isn't just like, I have so many questions. Like, what would my superhero outfit be? Look, again, here we go, guys. Come on this journey with me as I start spitballing all these ideas. So you've had the vaccine, you've turned into a superhero. It's, as it stands, you don't know anyone else with these superhero powers. First things first, you have to decide, are you keeping these powers to yourself, or are you going public with it? I'm keeping them to myself. Simple as that. Question number 2, if you do choose to use your powers for good or bad, are you going to have a superhero costume? Or are you just going to be like, just you? Is it just your everyday clothes? Again, it does depend on your powers. If I've got telekinesis powers, as long as I don't have to physically like move to make something move, if I can just use my head and look at something and it happens, I don't need a disguise. You'll never know it was me. Like, I'll be walking down the street, someone bumps into me, and 3 seconds later, a bus just careers off the road and takes them through the Debenhams High Street window. Well, shouldn't have bumped into me. But you would never know that was me. Again, that was very extreme, and I did say I would use my powers for good. That was just an example to let you know. But yes, no, because it's never, what they don't show you in superhero movies, apart from, I think it was a trailer for Deadpool 2, is just how awkward it would be getting in and out of your costume. Unless you're Iron Man with your nanobots, which, as far as I'm aware, aren't a real thing, so I can't just say I'd have the Iron Man suit. There's a lot of having to change clothes, and I think if anything, I'd just have like a balaclava and just pull my balaclava down when it's time, but they'll recognize literally everything else that I'm wearing. So it's you either go all in or nothing, and for my powers, I don't need anything. And even if I do have to make hand movements, I can just keep my hands quite low and just move things around. You wouldn't have a clue. So there's my attire. Next, because every superhero has one, or they sort of have one, a sidekick. Would you have a sidekick, or would you work alone? Or not even a sidekick. Would you form? Let's say now you find out that there are other superheroes out there, so it's not just you. No one knows you're a super, but it's not just you. Do you reach out to someone and partner up like a Batman and Robin, where you're both more like equal levels, depending on your powers? Do you form a super group, like Boys to Men, but the super version, or Backstreet Soups, West Soup, Soup Life? I'm going to stop now because I'll keep going with these and I can't think of any more off the top of my head. So what would you do? I work better by myself. I couldn't be dealing with working with other superheroes. And I feel like it would give you an ego as well, especially depending on your power. I'd be like, yo, all you do is turn into flames. Like, if I drop water on you, what can you really do to me now? You know what I mean? So I feel like I'd work by myself. I wouldn't want. I could do a team up. I wouldn't want to team up. So I don't want anyone to know who I am. I'm going for like the whole Superman Batman sort of thing. Not even that, because you wouldn't even see me. Like, I'd be saving the day. You wouldn't even know where this save came from. You'd just be like, there's a soup around here doing things, and none of us have any idea of what is going on. But that is exactly what I would do. Another question, which I've got written down, and this is actually, I'm saying it's a good question, because to me, this is a very, very good question. If you had the chance, we'll move off from the vaccine now. I think I've dived into that a bit much. Moving off that now, if you had the chance to get superpowers, but didn't know what powers you would get, would you accept it? So, I don't know, let's say you fall asleep and in the middle of the night, some cosmic being bursts into your room, wakes you up, hand over your head, you are the chosen one. We bear our gifts on you. Do you accept? That basically means you're going to get superpowers. Would you accept? You don't know what they are. You don't know if you're going to get one. You don't know if you're going to get more than one. You don't know if it's something you're going to be in control of, like Thor's in control of his powers, or Captain America. Or is it going to be something he's not really in control, but you know what I mean? Or is it going to be something you can't control, like the Hulk? The Thing. He's literally just a rock. He's just a human rock, and that is how he is stuck. Would you accept it? Ooh, that is a difficult question. The inner geek in me would say yes, especially if I'm half asleep. I also feel like if someone says you're the chosen one and they're coming to me and they're like, do you accept yes or no? I feel like, well, if you're picking me and you're asking me if I accept, you're not forcing it on me. I don't feel like this could be anything bad until you find out that you accept it, you take their superpower, and then they end up taking you to their home planet and you've got to save them and stay there as their Lord and Savior forever. Oh man, I have so many good topics in my head, and then I end up making them just a little bit dark, just a little bit dark. But there you go. Welcome to the MylesHighClub podcast. I don't know what else to tell you. So sticking with the whole superhero thing, because I'm really in my superhero bag now. You can see Spider-Man behind me. The best poster, which I think is my Deadpool one, is the one that's flipping covered by the sofa. I didn't think these things through when I was putting the posters up. I was literally just unraveling the poster and then pinning it to the wall, and I was like, ta-da! That's how it's going to work. Hence why there was a gap there on like episode 2 or 3. My Harry Potter and other one fell down. I don't know if I even told this story. That Mandalorian picture, I love the Mandalorian, so it doesn't bother me. I didn't mean to buy the Mandalorian. It was meant to be Lion King, and it was meant to be like the sunset with Simba, Timon, and Pumbaa walking across the log. I picked it up, number 25. I remember it specifically from one of those little poster machines in B&M. And I got home, unraveled it, and it said The Mandalorian. And I was like, I mean, I guess it's still Disney, but Lion King's my favourite Disney movie, so I was really hoping for something a bit better. Something a bit better than that, but you know. Anyway, moving on. Back to being a superhero. So I think I've covered off a few things when it comes to being a superhero, but I'm not going to end there, only because I have so many questions when it comes to being a superhero. So another one is, would you carry on living your normal life? Again, remember, you're a superhero now, so you have no idea whether or not, if you procreate with someone, so you breed someone or have a child, birth a child, you have no idea whether or not they're going to pick up your powers. So then you have to ask yourself these questions like, do I want to become a superhero? If I do, would I be able to continue living my normal life as it is? I think Mila would have fun. Mila would love the telekinesis. I could just throw her up and down without having to move a muscle. Toys would just be going off all around. It would be so much fun. It would be so much fun for her. But yeah, you never take that into account, do you? Like, oh, I'd love to get this power. I would do this, and this with it. What about your everyday life? A lot of us out there, as much as I love my job, I couldn't imagine waking up. Like, imagine that, waking up Monday morning, knowing you have these superpowers, and like it's 9 o'clock, and you're like, right, time to work. Meanwhile, you have the ability to level a whole city, or fly, or be invisible, or whatever your power is, and you just sat there at a desk, and you're just like, I don't need to be doing this. I could literally rob a bank, get away with it. With some superpowers, you wouldn't even need to rob a bank. Have you seen what's that film called? Is it Looper? No, not Looper. Jumper. Looper's the one with Bruce Willis and the time traveling one. Jumper, where his ability is he can jump from teleport. It's like a teleport. He can teleport from one place to another. As long as he has seen that place, or as long as he can see that place and he can visualize it in his head, he can teleport from one place to another. You know how much money you would save? You'd never sit in traffic. I wouldn't even know what traffic looked like. Holidays. You think I'd ever catch a plane? I would literally memorize like some back alley in these places, like some corner of the beach, and just boom, I'm there. No one will see me appear. I just go and enjoy my holiday. Boom, come back. Myles, where have you been for the past 2 days to get a tan like that? So well, obviously they wouldn't say that to me because I don't need a tan, and I've not my mic now, so I'm trying to discreetly set it back, and look at this, it should all just go in tits up. See, if I had my superpowers, I would just like telekinesis the whole thing. No. If I had my superpowers, I would just telekinesis the whole thing, and it would just be here like this. There we go. It's not actually standing up, it's leaning up against the sofa. But you know what? A quick fix is still a fix nonetheless. Sorry that I keep drinking out the milk chocolate, but like I said to you last week, this garage is flipping cold. So I gotta do what I gotta do to not turn into an icicle while I'm sat right here. I did say as well last week that over the weekend I was gonna like come into my garage clean. Nope, it rained. It literally rained, so my garage flooded. I can't actually start anything until it's the dry season. So it looks like we're in it for the long haul until I'd say March, April next year. Wait for the spring to come in, wait for there to be a bit of sun, and then I'll be able to get everything out here, sort the whole inside of this place out, and then I won't be dealing with problems like, I don't know if you guys can see it. I've got things like, I don't know if it's like damp or mold because of what the damp's causing inside here. I have stuff falling off the wall. Like I don't know if you can see it. No, the way I think I frame it, I don't think you'll be able to see it. The top corner that on the right hand side of that Harry Potter poster has already peeled off. So who knows how long till that falls down. You can't see the other half of the white post at the top left over there. That is just a shambles. It is just a shambles. So I do appreciate everyone that has been rocking out with me, watching or listening to this podcast with the audio and the visuals that we do have. But like I said, we are just getting started. So there are bigger and better things to come. But that's enough about superheroes. I really want to talk about like what are we expecting for, you know how it's towards the end of the year, so everyone does like their year wrap ups and what are you looking forward to next year and what are your predictions for next year. The way this year has gone, originally I was one of those people that was just like, I can't wait for next year for this all to be over and done with. And I don't want to bring it down. I don't want to make this a somber podcast, but I'm just saying my hopes for 2021 they're not necessarily the highest. Again, like I said, what I think is gonna happen is we're gonna be in the tiers. We're gonna flick between lockdown and tiers and lockdown and tiers. Whether it's a national one or they do it like they've been doing, where I think like the North ended up getting whacked into lockdown while the South were carrying on with their house parties and whatnot. I feel like that's gonna happen to at least the summer. They're bringing in this vaccine, which, like I said, I'm not going to get political on it. You go and do your research on what you think about this vaccine. However, so they're bringing in this vaccine. I think you know what the thing is with the vaccine that gets me? It's not so much them bringing in a vaccine, because like I said, I don't know, I've said this before, but I treat coronavirus like a really strong flu. I'm not one of these people that says coronavirus is fake. I do believe there is a virus out there. Like I've had friends that have said to me that they've had the virus and they were bedbound for like 4 days. They lost their appetite, they lost their taste. Like they were telling me they couldn't taste a thing. So I don't think the virus is a made up thing. I think the virus is completely real. I don't think it's as deadly as they made it out to be. Which is why now everyone's running around not giving a fuck and wearing no masks, because they feel like they were lied to start with. No, I feel like this is a real virus. So when I see a vaccine coming, to me, a vaccine coming for coronavirus is just like getting the flu shot. I've never had a flu shot to stop me getting a flu for the winter season. Main reason I never got one is because the people I spoke to that get the flu, is it a flu shot, flu jab, whatever it's called? People I've spoke to that have got the flu jab have always said they get the jab. It makes you horribly sick as soon as you get it, because I think it gives you the flu to help fight the flu, so you don't get the flu for the rest of it. Majority of people I spoke to all said that it was like it's a horrible feeling, and then from there it's mixed stories. Some people claim that they never get sick moving forward. Other people claim that they've had the flu shot and then like 2 weeks later they still got sick again, so it was pointless for them. So a vaccine for the coronavirus coming out, it's like any other virus disease out there, a vaccine was always going to come. However, the thing for me is like these big events like music festivals and music concerts saying things like no vaccine, like you'll need an airline. Some airlines have said it as well, like to board this plane, to come into this building for this music festival, to enjoy this concert live, you will have to have, one, had the vaccine, and two, be able to prove it. Because I'm like, how do you prove you've had the vaccine? Is the NHS going to share a database with these event places? Are you going to get given some pass, like a certificate, a medal? Will you get something sent to your phone? Is it going to be some sort of stupid trick? Is it going to be like a chip? This is like, you know, where everyone's talking about these electrical chips. It could be a chip. It could be a vaccine. Put a little chip in like your wrist or your neck or something, and then when you go to these places, they just scan your neck, and they're like, yeah, he's got a vaccine chip. He is fine to come in. So that's the thing that has me skeptical. I'm like, why have they not done this for anything else? Because believe me, I get it from a business point of view, but I am one of these people that has always said, like, my mom's one of these people that even if she's got the sniffles, even if she's got a cold, she will still go to work. So on one half, I commend her for that. I'm always like, because I've got her work ethic. So I was one of the, I feel I was like one of 10 kids, it felt like, at high school. I was one of 10 kids that not only did I get a certificate, I was one of those people that got a certificate at the end of every year for having 100% attendance. And then when I got to year 11, I got a certificate for having 100% attendance for the full 5 years. Like, I never took a day off school. If you had a mom like me, there was no waking up in the morning saying I don't feel too well. I used to wake up in the morning and say I don't feel well. And then my mom would say, go to school, and if you still don't feel well, ring me, but don't waste my time. And you see that message there? Knowing that my mom used to drive, again, when you're a kid, where I lived in Tiverdown, I used to think Birmingham was so far away. Knowing my mom worked in Birmingham, I was like, I'm not ringing her. I was like, when I get to school, I was like, I can't ring my mom to come and get me now because she's going to be pissed, especially if I don't actually feel that ill. So, never that. First job at River Island, never went off sick at River Island, never went sick off at Coffin. None of my jobs, I'm trying to think, I know one job I went off sick, and that's because I had a hernia operation. So it wasn't like I was at home just feeling sorry for myself. I generally had an operation and couldn't sit up or move for the first week. Had 2 weeks off. Second week, I was just about able to drive in. Still a bit sore because my hernia was literally right on my groin area. So it was a bitch. It was a bitch. Let me say that much. So yeah, I've never had time off. But I'm, like I said, my mom's one of these people that, regardless of what she's going through, unless she can't walk or unless she's dead, she is going to work. I'm one of these people that has always been like, listen, if you've got a cough, as the sneezes, if you've got the sniffles where you just every 20 seconds, stay home. I've always said, if you feel like, if I own my own business, depending on, I don't know how all that pay stuff works, but if you said to me, I feel sick or I feel like I'm coming down with something, stay at home. Don't, especially when you work in like an office or retail. Just think about working in retail. Think about like you walk in the first shop, someone's ill, they pass you something, you know, take those germs. You then carry those germs in every other shop you go into. All of the people go into that shop. It's just one big cycle. And then when you work in an office building, I don't even know if this is how it works, but it's the conspiracy that everyone in an office building or an office, whether it's a full whether it's multiple floors or if it's just like a one floor office building or a ground floor office building, I reckon every person in those offices has heard someone at one point talk about how the germs and the diseases are getting passed through the air conditioning. I'm not an air conditioning expert, so I have no idea how air conditioning actually works. I remember working on British Gas. I used to work on the third floor, which was the top floor. So we always used to be like, oh, someone's ill on the second floor. It's probably going to come up through the AC and get us. Guys, I'm like I said, I'm not an expert on a lot of things. I don't know if that's how it works. I don't feel like that's how it works. But again, I might be wrong. I literally might be wrong. So I'm just like, yeah, you got the coughs, stay at home, come back in when you feel 10 times better. You got the sniffles, you got the sneezes, stay your ass at home until you feel better, then come back into work. Because again, all you're going to have there is one person not coming to work for a few days or a week. Oh, wow. That's better than having one person come in and then slowly passing an infection around the office where it leads to having like one person off every week or every other week. Or, worst case scenario, 2, 3, 4 people all off because everyone's got the same pissing flu because one person couldn't just stay their ass at home and deal with the cold. Again, if you're someone that is self-employed and you're like, oh, if I take a day off, whether I'm sick, I don't get paid. Hey, I don't work with you. So if you want to go into work and sneeze on your friends while you're digging up roads, go for it. Because again, like you said, it's your only way of income. But if you work for a company where you get sick pay or anything like that, You should not be taking. I hope this is a common thing. Like the one positive that you should be able to take from COVID happening is, I feel like as a nation, everyone's hygiene has increased. I would no, not me say it has. I would like to think everyone's hygiene has increased. The amount of times I used to walk into the men's toilet and see like someone walk out of a cubicle or walk from the urinal and just walk straight out the door and not wash their hands. I'm just like, oh, it just. I'm one of these people that, when you push open a door, I use my feet. If I can, when I push open a door, I use my feet. When I touch elevator buttons or any buttons like that, I always use my knuckles. I don't, and I wipe, but I always use my knuckles. Like elevators, when I get to like a road, and this is before coronavirus, when I get to the road, I always use my knuckles on them and things like that. So I just feel like humans are gross, and it only takes you to see like one or two people out there doing disgusting things, and then you'll stop and think to yourself, that is. And if you see one person do it, you then start thinking to yourself, well, if he does it, how many other people are doing things like this? And you just start thinking about it, and you just like, if you could see germs, I don't feel like you'd be able to see where. I feel like you wouldn't be able to see where you're walking. That's how bad I think it is in places. I feel like if you could physically see germs, you would not be able to see like a foot in front of you. You'd constantly be walking like this just to make sure you don't walk into something or walk into someone else. But yeah, the one thing I think that the positive, if any positive you can take away from coronavirus, I don't know if it's brought people closer together. People act like it's brought them closer together. Has it? Has it really? I'm not being judgmental. If it has, then I'm happy for you. But I just don't see in any situation how, unless you're living with people, you've probably been around all the time anyway, so now you're just stuck around them. You probably find them more annoying now than anything. Yeah, so I just feel like everyone's hygiene levels have increased and have got better. I don't know if got better is the correct terminology to say for this, but I feel like they're just on it a bit more. Everyone's just a little bit more clean. I still don't trust people. Still don't trust people. But that is my takeaway from the corona. That's my takeaway from the coronavirus, guys. Take it as you will. One positive is, I feel like plenty, but I say this, are people just a lot more clean and cleanly now because it's going on? Like, let's say 2-3 years, it's all died down and finished. Are people just going to go back to being their nasty selves? Or are we going to be more like Asian countries? So anyone that's been to an Asian, I shouldn't say all Asian countries, but like a majority, when I went to Philippines, I saw it. A lot of people walk around with those masks on. I found out in that culture, the reason why people walk around with masks on, well, there's two reasons. The main reason is it's to stop the spread of an infection. So, whereas now it's just everyone's wearing a mask to stay safe. In their culture, I don't think it's legal, but in their culture, if you don't feel well, if you've got like a cough or a sneeze, you would wear a mask when you're out in public. That way, if you need to sneeze or cough, you're not passing the infection on to anyone else. You're just keeping it contained within your mask and within yourself. So again, listen, everyone is so polite. When I went to the Philippines, people are so polite and kind and thoughtful out there. That makes perfect sense. You wear a mask if you're ill to stop you infecting everyone else. Another reason out there, I think, is pollution. But hey ho, everywhere's got pollution. It's not as bad as some places. When I went to the Philippines and we flew from London to Hong Kong before we went from Hong Kong to Cebu, as we were landing in Hong Kong, you could actually see, like, when you looked out of the plane window, you could see where the pollution stopped and where it was just clean air. And it literally went from blue skies, like a light grey, like someone put like a filter on it. I was like, wow, the pollution is really bad. So I can see why they would wear, I can literally see why they would wear masks out there for things like that. But yeah, so are we going to start doing that now? I don't know if it'll be a law or something. It'll be like, look, from now on, if you're feeling ill, if you don't feel too well, just whack a mask on when you leave. There's going to be people. I feel like everyone knows at least one person who is going to be that person that when everything's back to normal, they are just going to walk around with their mask on. Plenty of people are probably going to get fired or get told off from work because they'll probably turn up to work and they'll still keep their mask on because I don't think they're ever going to get rid of the coronavirus. I don't think they'll ever get rid of it. I think it's just going to be one of those things where you'll get the flu and you'll be like, "Hey, you feel?" Like, "I've just got the sneezes. It's just influenza. It's just a common cold." Or you'll lose your taste, and you'll be like, "Oh no, I've got corona." And they're like, oh, "Okay." I don't know if it'll be take 2 weeks off. They might just say, like, have the week off. When you get your taste back, come back in, and we'll get back to normal. So there's all these different things. So I'm just like, here we go. Sorry. Yeah, I was literally looking. I was looking for a positive note to end on, and I can't think of a positive note to end on. So I'm now literally flicking through some facts to try and find out. Yeah, to try and find out whether or not I can actually give you a decent fact. Here we go. In 2011, a Swedish man was arrested for trying to split atoms in his kitchen. I don't even know where to start with that. The way they've said it, like, did he build his own? What is it? Was it a hadron collider? Is that what they called that thing? Does anyone remember that? The hadron collider. It was meant to. Wasn't that meant to send an atom and a neutron? It was right. Here we go. This is the science bit. My memory is shocking. All I remember is it was something called a hadron collider or a collider in Switzerland, Sweden, one of those Scandinavian countries, and they built this big thing, and I think it was to smash atoms into each other to create something. And there was a fear that if they did this, they could create a black hole and cause a rip in time and space as we know it, and all that. So this guy was clearly trying to work on his own little experiment by trying to split atoms in his kitchen, and he was arrested through it. So have that, guys, for your weekly fact from the Myles High Club podcast. But thank you very much for tuning in to another episode of the Myles High Club podcast. I've been your host, Myles. You've been watching. Until the next time, peace.